What's up, everybody? Welcome to this week's REI Deal Breakdown. I am your host, Greg Helbeck, and today I'm going to talk about a fix and flip property that I am in the middle of selling to a buyer. So I'm going to tell you, how did I find the house? What do the numbers look like? And what are some lessons you can learn? So if you're not familiar with me, if this is your first time listening or watching, I've been a full-time real estate entrepreneur now for almost 10 years. I've done well over 250 properties, flips, wholesales, rentals, the whole thing. So the point of this show is to share with everybody lessons that I've learned from the real world so you can benefit from the content. So if you do get value from this, if you can do me a favor, subscribe to my channel, like the video, and share it on social media. So today is a property, and I'll give you the street name. It was on Apple Lane in Orange County, New York. The way I found the property was actually from a wholesaler that I've already done business with. So I got a text from a wholesaler. I said, yeah, I'll take a look at the property. And I think he was originally asking like 220 for it. And I looked at the house and it seems like it was probably worth about 300 fixed up. So on the surface, I'm like, yeah, it's a pretty tight deal. You know, it needs some rehab and it's only going to sell for 300. Maybe I'll pass on this deal. But then I figured, you know what, if I can get this a little bit cheaper, I could still make a little bit of money on it and keep this relationship with the wholesaler because I want to have him keep coming to me for deals. So anyway, I told him, listen, I don't need to see the house. I'll buy it sight unseen. I just need it a little bit cheaper. So would you be flexible on the price? And he said, yeah, I would. So talked him down $10,000. Ended up getting him to sell me the property for 210. And I figured on this house probably needs $30,000 to $40,000 worth of work. Let me actually pull up my scope of work and tell you how much this thing cost. The budget on this property was 45,700. So we went over budget by 5 grand, which happens all the time. So anyway, bought the house for 210,000. I put in $45,000 and I was planning to resell the property for 300. So on the surface, you're like, well, man, you bought this house, you put 45 grand into it. You're going to have some costs when you go resell it. How can you make money on that deal? And the answer is, if you're following the math, you're kind of right. If I sold the property, or if I do sell the property for 300, after paying the commissions and the hard money points and the interest and the closing costs and everything, I'll literally break even on this house if I sell it for 300. But thankfully, you know, you never know until it closes. I got an offer on this property that we have contracts going out to the attorney for the buyer at 315. So assuming the deal works out, I'll make $15,000 in profit on a deal that I paid a little too much for. So you're probably thinking, Greg, that's a pretty tight deal. And I would agree with you. Yes, it is. So generally speaking, the rule of thumb, if you're doing a house flip, at least in my area, you want to make about 10% of the overall sales price in the form of a net profit. So my minimum profit I'd want to make would be 30 grand. But in this case, I'm going to make 15K, assuming it closes at the offer the buyer put in. So why would I still do this deal? Number one, I want to keep the relationship with the wholesaler and I want to have him keep sending me deals. Ironically, he literally sent me another deal today. So it's like, you got to keep that relationship there. And number two, the lesson is, if for some reason I couldn't sell this property at 300, it's in a good enough area and it's a good enough house to where I can keep it as a rental and it would either break even or cash flow, and it would be a nice long-term hold. So I wouldn't get completely hosed on this thing if I couldn't sell it. Yes, I'd have to leave a lot of money in the deal because I had paid cash for the rehab, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. And lesson number three, if you look at the cash on cash return on this deal, it's pretty good, even though I'm only making 15 grand, because I had to come to the closing table, I think with $15,000 out of my own pocket to pay the wholesale fee and the closing costs. And I put around 45,000 into it. So in terms of the cash I personally have in this deal, it's $60,000. And then the profit that this deal is going to make, assuming it closes, is $15,000. So if we take $15,000 and we divide it into $60,000, I'm making a 25% cash on cash return, which is pretty good. That's like basically saying, if I have this capital, in this case, it's 60,000 I have invested in the property. If you could tell me you'll get a 25% return on that money in 2 to 3 months, someone would probably take you up on that offer. So if you look at it from that standpoint, assuming it closes, I'll make a 25% cash on cash return on my actual capital invested in that deal, which is better than just sitting in the bank. And yes, that's a lot of money to put out. Yes, there's risk there. Yes, it could ultimately not sell. You know, it could have sold for lower. I understand that. But because of lesson number two, it could always be a rental and it would have equity. It still would work. So in summary, this is part one. Hopefully, you know, it closes in like a month and I can do the part two. But sometimes if you want deals, especially in a competitive market like now, you got to pay a little bit more. Like in perfect world, if I had my druthers, I would love to pay 175 for this house, but that wasn't reality because I think the wholesaler only made like 10 grand on this. And there's no reason for the seller to take a haircut when a buyer wants to buy and a seller wants to sell and the wholesaler can make some money in the middle. So the lesson here is if you're a buyer like me and you do fix and flips, you gotta sometimes be willing to do tighter deals if they're in good areas. And another lesson on this deal is that this is in Orange County, New York, right? Which is a very popular area. It's not too far from New York City. And if you look anywhere in the county, the cheapest houses you're going to get are going to be like 300K to 400K. So right now, like this property, and it's renovated. It's a brand new kitchen, brand new bathroom, fully painted, new floors, the whole thing looks really nice. You're not going to find anything in Orange County for the most part under 300,000. So I knew when I put this house on the market, because of the fact that it's cheap housing for Orange County, there was going to be a buyer for it. So good product, affordable housing, demand for it. We had a good amount of activity when we first put it on the market, hence we got the offer for 315. So that's the deal on Apple Lane in Orange County, New York. And like I said, I'll keep you guys posted on a part 2. And if you're interested in partnering with me or wholesaling a house to me, and it's in the Hudson Valley or Delaware or Seattle, San Diego, or even Reno, where I used to live, send me an email, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com, or send me an Instagram message at grego37, and I'll see you on the next REI deal breakdown.